Good morning. My name is Scott Satterwhite, and I use the pronouns he, him. And I wanted to ask you to please silence all electronic devices. I've been to a couple events lately, and then it's right at this crescendo where it's about ready to become this incredible moment that all of a sudden, over to the side. I always forget, and as soon as I say that to you, I'm going to do that to mine because I bet you mine's on right now. Now we want to take a few moments to welcome any guests with us today. We are very, very glad that you're here. All right, so now I have some announcements before we begin, and let me just start off with Georgiana. Georgiana wanted to talk about the trust.
Thank you, Scott. By proclamation signed in March of 2022, the church's governing board and the trustees of our trust declared that March of every year will be a time set aside to recognize and promote awareness of the trust. The UUCP Charitable Trust is a legal entity separate from the church, founded in March of 1988 by UCP members Ken Bullivant, Don Danley, and Barbara Goggins, for the purpose of receiving and investing funds for the long-term support of UUCP. Only members of the church can serve as trustees of the trust. All donations of the trust go to the principal of the trust, called the permanent endowment, which is intended to remain there essentially forever in perpetuity. In contrast, your annual pledge to the church is to cover just the upcoming year's operating expenses. The trust investment income, the interest and the dividends from the endowment, is available to the church when needed. There is also a building fund which provides loans to the church for repairs or improvements to the buildings and grounds. Hence, your donation to the trust works for years and decades to come. You can make donations to the trust now to honor a loved one, celebrate a special occasion, or you can include the trust in your estate planning. This year marks the 35th year of the trust. Current trustees are myself, Georgiana Bryan, I'll say my name, Aaron Renfro, Lori Winterberg, Patty Underwood, and Hugh Ed Turner. And so we just wanted everyone to be aware of the trust and what it does. Thank you.
And wanted to also mention that our second hours coming up are on March 5th, and just briefly, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I'll just tell you that briefly, we have second hour with Maggie is going to be giving this. It's a long, strange trip, a 6-part video series by Ron Cordes that explores the history of Unitarian and Universalist thought. On March 12th, after the Sunday service, Linda Fussell will give a presentation on recent Escambia County School Board decisions to ban certain books from school libraries and what you can do to counter these efforts. And there's a pretty long page about this over here, but if you want, talk to Paula. Is that good enough, or should I read the whole thing? Okay. I'll just mention this. We have a bunch of things that are going on as far as the school board. I think all of you probably are paying attention to it. Books are being banned, and there's no shortage of books about ready to be banned. And if you'd like to talk to Paula about this, there's some specific information that we can help pass on to you. Yes?
I'm the one that asked.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy. Nancy, all right. So Nancy is the one to ask about this. And then on March 19th, Jean Siebenauer, Legislative Chair, Democratic Women's Club of Florida, will present the 2023 Florida Legislative Overview and look at important legislation moving in the state legislature. She will discuss fast-tracking legislation, the DeSantis agenda, and what you can do about it. All right, so lots of big stuff coming up, and those are the second hours that are happening in March. And the last one here, if anyone would be interested in assisting with children one time, only one time per month during service, please contact Denise Gunn. Okay, so I think that's all of the, last one in here is about the joys and sorrows. So I know that we're going to be doing joys and sorrows like we've been doing for a while, but recently, during the pandemic, when we started meeting in person, one of the things we stopped doing was everybody getting up here and using the microphone and lighting the candles, but I think we're going to start doing that again starting on March 5th. So get prepared, all right? We'll do it the old-fashioned way again with us. Okay, so those are our announcements, and let's begin with the 7 principles. Every time I see that video, too, that's a really lovely video that Laura put together. Good job. You're welcome. All right, so the chalice lighting, I've lit the chalice, and let me read to you some words. Our opening words today are from one of my personal heroes, Paul Robeson. Anybody who knows me knows I love Paul Robeson. I was recently talked out of getting a big tattoo of Paul Robeson on my leg, but I still might do it. Sorrow will one day turn to joy. All that breaks the heart and oppresses the soul will one day give place to peace and understanding, and everyone will be free. Now, if we can rise and recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. All right, thank you. You may be seated. All right, call the choir up. We have hymn number 407.
We're
Thank you so much. All right. I don't see any kids out here, are there? Am I wrong? All right. So they already left in peace. So let them go. All right. All right. So now, I'd like to pass the collection plates. So as you know, the church is supported by all of your donations, all the goodness from your heart, and the collection plate will be going around in just a second. There we go. Honor has been designated as the NASW, that's the National Alliance of Social Workers, Florida Northwest Unit Social Worker Student of the Year. So awesome. Let me just add also that Honor gave a really amazing speech the other day for the event at UWF marking the Day of Action. So it's probably out there in the world to check out. But just wanted to give a number of shout outs to Honor. We are honored to have you here.
Emmy Award winner Cheryl Lee Reynolds.
It's a beautiful rendition. Yeah, I posted this on my Facebook account a little while ago, and it started a little debate among one person who wanted to, was questioning whether or not it should be played there. Didn't really know the history of the song. The history of the song is really interesting as well. It was written by Rosamond and James Weldon Johnson. James Weldon Johnson also wrote the autobiography of an ex-colored man. It's a really interesting book if you get the chance to read it. They're both from Jacksonville, so it's a Florida song, in many ways too. It's written in 1900s and was released on Abraham Lincoln's birthday, as far to mark the emancipation, also. But as you can tell in the song with the lyrics, it's an aspirational song saying, "We ain't there yet. All right, keep moving, until victory is won." And it's a good song to return to quite often. So I want to thank Nancy for suggesting the Super Bowl version of it, because they did a really good job, with putting that together. Oh, Dolly Berthel. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting everybody's names. So Dolly, good job with suggesting that. All right. My personal joy is to be here with Georgia Blackmon. Georgia Blackmon's been one of my heroes for a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and lead into the message right now and introduce Georgia Blackmon. And I'm not overstating that too. Georgia Blackmon's definitely been one of my heroes. She rose for many years. I've known Georgia for think about the other day, and probably about 24 years, I think, somewhere around 24 years. I know some of y'all have known Georgia for more than that, many more than that. Georgia has been a powerful force in Pensacola, specifically for a long time with her with her bookstore, The Gathering Awareness. It was a gathering, as the name implies. It was a place where people got together. I'd often come in there to hang up a flyer, get a book, and then we ended up talking for probably about 2 years, or 2 years, 2 hours, sometimes. I go over there and then, we just talk about politics, talk about what's going on in the world, books and literature sometimes. But Georgia's a really generous person with her time, and I know has been a mentor to a lot of folks over the years, helped lots and lots of kids over the years. And both her and her late husband, Johnny, were a big section, of not only the literary community, but also the Pensacola community, the Black community here in Pensacola, but really just the broader community in Pensacola. That when I went online to look for some pictures of Georgia to put onto the slideshow, this was one of about 30 pictures from the News Journal that I found. So when you're featured 30 times or 30 plus times in the News Journal in various ways, for various things, whether it be your bookstore, talking about Belmont de Villers, talking about the Ella Jordan House, talking about all sorts of many different things, then you know that you have a really, really important person here with us right now. And as I said, that I've always been in awe of Georgia. It's been somebody that I've looked up to for a number of years. And I'm really, really happy to be here right now with her and happy to introduce her. So without any further ado, Georgia Blackmon.
Good morning. It's kind of dangerous to have someone that like you talk about you, because they can give you a big head if you're not careful. I want to thank all of you for inviting me here to speak on African American history. I brought some information because one of the things that Scott was saying, my husband just passed in December, and I'm having a hard time. But he was always involved in the community with children, always involved. People would say, how do you allow him to, put all those kids in your car? You could break your car down, and all that. I said, well, seeing is it that I have never paid a car note in my life, I really don't have anything to say about that. I was born in Pensacola, and I'm 81 years old. Dr. McDaniel was the man that filed the suit against Pensacola and the whole state of Florida to get African American teachers to be able to teach in all schools. Dr. Augusta fired the city and the state of Pensacola. Similar, but after that, because it had not passed yet what Dr. McDaniel had did, and he was staying right next door to a school, and he could not let his children go in the school because they was African Americans. The Ella Jordan House was built in 1890, and Mrs. Jordan bought the house in 1929. Eleanor Roosevelt came to that house, Mary McLeod Bethune came to that house, and when there was a lady named Bevelyn Bain, she was a retired educator here, school teacher, and her and my husband was friends. And she came to Johnny, Ivan tore the house down, and they was fixing to demolish the house. And she came to Johnny and asked him for help. And we went before the magistrate 3 times, and he said no to us 3 times. And then he gave us some information and told us if we have it done that he might look at it again. To redo the house to its historical, to keep its historical site and all, was $362,000. $362,000. people came together across race and gender to save that house. It is now the Ella L. Jordan African American Museum. I would recommend that you go in and see it. It is open Monday through Thursday from 10 until 2. We do not owe a dime on the house. We do not owe a dime on the house. Pensacola, with me being raised in Pensacola, born in Pensacola, Pensacola history, I don't know if you know anything about it, within the African American community, but Belmont and DeVillas is what is known as a African American community, because at one time African American had their businesses down on the water, downtown. And when they decided to, when I'm talking about the officers and all, and whoever, the county and all, when they decided to make a move from there, they relocated to Belmont and DeVillas. And that's where you had your black doctors, your black lawyers, and you had the, trying to think of it, the Savoy, which was a club. And I hung out there. I saw James Brown there. I saw Stevie Wonder there. I saw Ike and Tina there. I saw, trying to think of who was the last one that I saw there. But I mean, they brought people in here from all over at Belmont and DeVillas. You have downtown, and it's been in the newspaper a lot, about Bruce's Pool. That was a pool when I came up in Pensacola. We wasn't allowed to go to beaches. So that was the pool that we would go to, was Bruce's Pool. And they're working on it now, redoing it, and I don't know what, gonna happen there, but they supposed to be putting up things and redoing it, and that's downtown Bruce's Pool. You had 10 black men. I know 3 of them are still living. You had 10 black men in Pensacola that sued the city and the county for representation. At that time they sued, we didn't have any African American representation on the city, the county, school board, or the ECUA. They sued and they won the case. And that's how that happened. You have right now that we do, and I'm a part of it, not a part of but I'm a part of taking the children there. I don't know if any of you have heard of Bloody Sunday. It's in Selma. As a matter of fact, it's always the first Sunday in March, which I will be going next Sunday. And that's when the people were killed for working for the rights to vote. And so they still have Bloody Sunday. You have the Emancipation Proclamation in Tallahassee every year. Every year you have it. That's about African American history. You still have the place in Montgomery that you can go, where they bombed that church. And someone, I'm trying to think of who it was, but someone last year brought in one of the young women. It was 3 young women in that church, and 2 was killed. And the one that wasn't killed, she came here to speak last year. And so that's a lot of African American history. Go to that Ella Jordan house, because that's where we live. Go to Bruce's Beach, it's here. Go to Belmont DeVillas, it's here. And if you never had a Blue Dot hamburger, when you go to, I had one yesterday. When you go to Belmont DeVillas, please check out Blue Dots. He been there. I was 16 years old, and I was going to Blue Dots. So he been around a long time. It's going into 3 hands. His son, and now Byron, his grandson, runs it. So check it out. One of the things that being 80 years old, 81, one of the things that I know without a shadow of a doubt that I've been allowed to know that we are all human beings. We all come from one place. We all bleed the same blood. We all cry the same tears. So African American history is all our history. History is all our history. And my grandmother taught me that if you don't teach your children, take care of your children and your community, if you take care of them, they will take care of you. And I've learned that that is the truth. And so my thing is to work with other people, and I do that right now here in Pensacola across race and gender, to do things that get us to understand that we are all one people. But I told you those places because they're still happening. You can go to that Ella Air Jordan and see all the people here that made a difference in Pensacola. It's open every Monday from 10 o'clock to 2. Every Monday through Thursday from 10 o'clock until 2. You can go in there. The history is in there. And so I'll go in there and do that. You have so much, and with me being as old as I am, and I love it, I'm not complaining, I've seen a lot of things during my time. During the time of segregation and all, there were still people that came together across race and gender to work together. I live in a house on 7th Avenue. I came up in that house as a child. There was a man across the street from us, and segregation was bad at that time. And his name was Mr. Bob, that's what we called him. And he happened to be white. But when his wife died, his daughter came to try to get him to move, but he wouldn't. He died across the street from where I live right now. And what he would do, even before his wife died, because where I live was always the south side of Jordan Street was African American. The north side of Jordan Street was European. And what Mr. Bob did was, he would bring the children from both sides to his house. And he would teach us games and stuff. And then his wife would always, she would never come out other than when it got time to go. She would bring us cookies and Kool-Aid. So my point is that regardless to what goes on in the universe, there are good people across race and gender. That was a man that we brought here to speak. We didn't bring him, PJC brought him. And he was speaking on Black history, and he said, when he got ready to close, he says, every ethnic group have its good, its bad, and its ugly. But I'm closing. And I recommend, if you want to know about Black history, read Carter G. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. I don't know if it still is, but it was required reading in the universities. It was required reading in the universities. The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. When I look at things, and like I say, I don't tiptoe through the tulip no more. I made one. I just lost my husband in December. Me and him used to talk about things, and it was in the scripture, and get me right here. I am not religious a smidget, not even a little bit, but I'm spiritual to the bone. I'm spiritual to the bone. And one of the things we talked about was in that scripture, it said that your days was recorded while you was in your mother's womb. So I don't focus on death at no time. I focus on life. And coming up having so many of good people across race and gender to teach me, as Mr. Bob and my grandmother and all, it taught me that we're all human beings, that there's only one God and one people. And I want to close with this poem. It was Helen Steiner Rice. And I used to buy her greeting cards. And after I opened the bookstore, I learned that she had books. So I started selling her book. And I loved her as a writer. But the thing that I fell in love with, and I'm closing, was the poem. And it said, God of love, forgive, forgive, and teach us how to truly live. And someday may we realize that all the earth, the sea, the sky, belongs to God who made us all, the rich, the poor, the great, the small. And in our Father's holy sight, no man is yellow, black, or white, and peace on earth will not be found until we meet on common ground, where every man become a brother who worship God and love each other. Thank you so very much. Go please look at the Ella Jordan Museum, and guy came from Milton, and he brought his whole church and his children. And so, but we have good. They come in from Alabama. They was from Atmore, from Daphne, and also it's on C in LaRue. That's all, and it's called the Pink House. It was the Pink House. It was the Colored Woman Federated Club at first, and they are still around. We brought the national president here to speak. The Colored Women Federated Club. You can hit it on the internet and pull it up, but it deals with history, and so if you go back and check it out. And thank you so very much. Thank you.
If we can call the choir up, and if you'd like to stand if you can, and if you can't, that's A-okay. Play one of my favorite songs. Motherless Child, number 97. We have two closing words. I'm going to close again with Paul Robeson, who, whenever I hear that song, that's what I think of. Also, when I think of Paul Robeson, I actually think of Johnny, your husband, too. Every time we talk over at some of the banquets, he'd remind me that he had these clippings, these newspaper clippings for Paul Robeson's funeral. So I just thought of that. But this is Paul Robeson. I shall take my voice wherever there are those who want to hear the melody of freedom or the words that might inspire hope and courage in the face of despair and fear. My weapons are peaceful, for it is only by peace that peace can be attained. The song of freedom must prevail. And that's Paul Robeson. And then the last one is a little spur of the moment, but it's brought on by the poem that you read. And this is by Langston Hughes. And I'll see if I can remember it. I play it cool and dig all jive. That is how I stay alive. My motto, as I live and learn, is dig and be dug in return. Go in peace.